Welcome to RN Health Tips with Teresa Crowley, a place for inspiration, information, and support. Teresa has been an RN for 25 years and is sharing her experiences and techniques for building a healthy life. Now, here's Teresa.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. The story of my podcast is being changed just a little bit. I have realized a little bit of upkeep, a little bit of change is always good, and so I do hope to be able to present a podcast to you once a week, sometimes with guests, and sometimes just like myself and my ideas on total health. It was all inspired by a resilience virtual summit that I had presented July 9th through the 19th. It had guests, and we all discussed the word resilience and what it meant to us in our life. It is available in podcast form now, so if you'd like to check it out. And I do have guests from all focus in life, and I'm really kind of hoping that you enjoy it. I have Eastern medicine people. I have people who are very spiritual. I have a gentleman who's been through so much in his life and is now doing his own podcast. And I just hope today that you enjoy it and it gives you a little focus on that one word, resilience. Today, though, let's talk about things and patterns that we get into that disguised as anxiety. What do we do? What do we think about, especially in these times in the COVID, that we are thinking about and things kind of get out of hand? Like when we make everything a catastrophic event. When we do that, we anticipate the disaster. The only outcome is going to be that disaster, and we get a little intense. And really what we need to do is ground ourselves a bit and think about it again. And it doesn't always come out the worst. And when we do make it catastrophic, we always think it will be the worst. And it's not an all or nothing. It's easily recognized when we use those words as I always, or it never does this, or I'll never win anything. It's not always all or nothing. It is partial, and we need to realize it and really celebrate those partial wins, because it isn't going to be an all or nothing world, and things are going to be changing with this COVID. And so when we come out of it on the other side, that's what we need to focus on. We are going to come out of it on the other side. When you find yourself thinking about things that you should do, you ought to, or you must do, don't make those unrealistic standards. Just don't. I mean, you've got to get your mindset into a positive place and accomplish as much as you can when you can, but don't beat yourself up if you don't get it done. When you ignore the positive, you filter out all the good and the reassuring in almost any situation. And why are we always so determined to see the bad situation? This causes anxiety. This thought pattern really does actually disguise as anxiety. And if we can overcome that, if we can actually see ourselves when we're doing it and stop it right away, our brains need to be pulled back a little bit and say, okay, it's really not like that. When your brain responds with a thought like, oh, shoot, or I'm really terrible at my job, you've just exaggerated a mistake that may be minor, that maybe you can correct. And the exaggeration and the thought patterns that we have day by day are causing us more harm than good. Now, a lot of things are out of our hands, especially with this pandemic, and our routines are a little bit different. But I do believe that if we can take this exaggeration in our mind and we can lessen it, it will help. The emotional reasoning. This is when we go down that trap of, well, I feel it, so it's got to be true. And a lot of times it isn't. A lot of times now when we feel things, it's going to be weird. It's not going to be status quo. And we need to explore it, yet know that we have our inner strengths. And one of the inner strengths that I just can't say enough is, what I need you to do is know that you're going to come out on the other side. And we want to do as many positive things as we can right now to come out on that other side. But don't blame yourself, don't criticize yourself, and don't call yourself names if what you're doing now doesn't work out the way you thought it would. Because there's a lot of things now that there is no status quo. And so worrying about it and taking it personally really is not a positive. It's really not going to help the situation. And let's go for our inner strength. You got here so far. What are your inner strengths? And then rely on them. I know we all slip into these I don't know and all or nothing attitudes, or maybe just ignoring all the positive. So let's try and recognize it for what it is and pull ourselves out of it. Now, jumping to conclusions happens when we don't use the facts. We're not looking at the evidence before we decide and make our mind up. So what we're not going to do is jump to conclusions. We're going to see it for what it is. We're going to try and calm all of that chaos that we are in and, move on. It may not be perfect, but we are going to move on and be okay. I know that these times are tough, and I always used to say, and I still do, that, stress can make you sick. Well, it can kind of wear down on your resources and your ability to fight off everything. And sometimes you have the idea, and sometimes you have the feeling that it's coming at you from all sides. Take a deep breath. Try and pull yourself out of the semi-panic mode and rely on your resources. And if you need to, rely on the people around you's resources. Let them know how you're feeling and share, because we will get out of this and we will get out on the other side. And I just can't say that enough. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you will look forward to the new format and the new focus that I will have on my podcasts.